The blood was the first thing I noticed. A trail of it, dark and glistening in the light from my phone, leading from my garage door to the corner where my storage boxes were stacked. My heart hammered as I stood frozen in the doorway, keys dangling from my hand. It was past midnight, and I'd just gotten home from a double shift at the hospital. I was exhausted. My feet ached, and the last thing I needed was evidence of a break-in. Or worse, I should have called the police. Should have backed away, locked myself in my car, and dialed 911. But 3 years as an ER nurse had given me instincts that overrode common sense when I saw blood. Someone was hurt. Possibly dying. I moved into the garage carefully, my phone's flashlight cutting through the darkness. The blood trail continued, more of it now, pooling near the corner. And then I heard it. A ragged, painful breathing that made my medical training kick into high gear. "Hello?" I called out, my voice steadier than I felt. "I'm a nurse. I can help you." The breathing hitched, then a voice, male, rough with pain, responded in accented English. "Stay back. Don't come closer. You're bleeding in my garage. I'm definitely coming closer." I rounded the storage boxes, and my breath caught. A man lay slumped against the wall, one hand pressed to his side where blood seeped through his fingers. He was massive, easily over 6 feet, built like someone who'd spent years in a gym or a boxing ring. Dark hair matted with sweat, strong features contorted with pain, and eyes that even in his injured state held a dangerous intensity. Those eyes fixed on me with a mixture of warning and desperation. I said, "Stay back," and I said I'm a nurse. I knelt beside him, my hands automatically reaching for his wound. "Let me see." "No." He tried to push my hands away, but the movement made him gasp in pain. "You don't want to get involved. Trust me, too late. You're bleeding in my garage. I'm already involved." I pulled out my phone. "I'm calling an ambulance." His hand shot out, gripping my wrist with surprising strength for someone who'd clearly lost a lot of blood. "No hospitals. No police, please." I looked at him properly then, taking in details my nurse's brain had been cataloging. The expensive watch despite his disheveled appearance, the quality of his clothes beneath the blood, the way he held himself even injured, like someone used to being in control. And most telling, the gun holstered at his hip, partially visible when his jacket shifted. "You're running from something," I said quietly, "or someone." "Yes. And if you're smart, you'll pretend you never saw me." He released my wrist. "Walk away. Forget I was here. I should have. Should have done exactly what he said and walked away. Called the police. Let them deal with whatever criminal had broken into my garage. Instead, I lifted his hand away from his wound and examined it with professional detachment. Gunshot wound. Through and through. Probably missed major organs, but you're losing blood fast. You need medical attention. Can't risk a hospital. They report gunshot wounds, I know, which is why I'm going to treat you here." I stood, already running through what supplies I'd need. "Don't move. I'll be right back." "Why are you helping me?" His voice stopped me at the garage door. "You don't know me. I could be dangerous." I looked back at him, at the dangerous stranger bleeding in my garage, and told him the truth. "Because you're hurt and I'm a nurse. That's reason enough." I ran inside, grabbing my medical bag from the hall closet. I always kept it stocked, a habit from my ER days when you never knew what you'd encounter. Sterile gloves, gauze, antiseptic, sutures, pain medication. Not a fully equipped operating room, but enough to stabilize someone. When I returned, he'd slumped further down the wall, his breathing more labored. I worked quickly, cutting away his shirt to expose the wound. Entry and exit holes just as I'd thought. The bullet had gone clean through, missing anything vital by what looked like pure luck. "This is going to hurt," I warned, pulling on gloves. "Not the first time I've been shot." His attempt at dark humor came out as a grimace. I cleaned the wound as gently as I could, but he still hissed in pain. "Sorry, infection is a bigger risk than pain right now. You're good at this." "Been doing it long?" 5 years nursing, 3 in emergency medicine. You learn to work fast and not ask too many questions. I applied pressure to slow the bleeding, though right now I have a lot of questions. Better you don't know the answers. Probably true. I started packing the wound. my hands steady despite my racing heart. But I should at least know your name, in case you die in my garage. I'm not going to die. But his voice was weaker now. Name's Nikolai, Nick. I'm Harper. And you better not die, Nick, because I'm not equipped to deal with disposing of a body. He laughed, then immediately regretted it, pain flashing across his face. Dark humor. I like it. Occupational hazard. I finished packing the wound and started wrapping bandages. The bullet went clean through, which is good. But you've lost a lot of blood. You need fluids, antibiotics, and at least 3 days of bed rest. I'll be gone by morning. You'll be dead by morning if you try to move. I sat back on my heels, looking at him seriously. Nick, I don't know what you're running from, but you're in no condition to run anywhere. You stay here tonight, let me monitor you, and tomorrow we figure out what to do next. You're offering to hide a wanted man in your home? I'm offering to keep a patient alive until he's stable enough to make his own stupid decisions. I pulled out a bottle of painkillers. Take these. They'll help with the pain. He studied me with those intense eyes, and I felt the weight of his assessment. Finally, he took the pills, swallowing them dry. Why are you really doing this? Most people would have called the cops the second they saw blood. Most people aren't nurses who've seen what I've seen. People die in ERs because they're too scared to seek help, too afraid of police or immigration, or whatever consequences they think they'll face. I've watched people bleed out rather than tell us who hurt them. I started gathering my supplies. You came to my garage because you were desperate. I'm helping you because that's what I do. Even when the person you're helping might be dangerous? Are you? Dangerous to me specifically? He held my gaze. No, never to you. You're saving my life. Then we don't have a problem. I stood, my knees protesting after kneeling on concrete. Can you walk? Or do I need to help you inside? Inside? He looked shocked. You're bringing me into your house? You can't stay in the garage. It's October. It'll get too cold, and I need to monitor you for shock and infection. I extended my hand. Come on, guest room is upstairs. He stared at my hand like it was the most foreign thing he'd ever seen. You're insane. You know that? Been told that before, usually by patients who are alive because I broke protocol to save them. I kept my hand extended. You coming or not? With visible effort, he took my hand and leveraged himself up, immediately swaying. I caught him, his weight heavy against me, my arms barely able to support his muscular frame. Easy, I said, guiding him toward the door, 1 step at a time. We made it into the house, through my small kitchen, up the stairs that he climbed with gritted teeth and pure determination. The guest room was at the end of the hall, and I'd never been more grateful for keeping it ready for the sister who visited occasionally. Nick collapsed onto the bed with a groan, and I immediately set about checking his vitals. Pulse elevated but steady, blood pressure low but not dangerously so, breathing labored but clear. You'll live, I pronounced, but you stay in this bed for the next 24 hours minimum. I'll check on you every few hours. You work tomorrow? Day off, actually, which is fortunate timing for you. I adjusted the pillows to elevate his injured side. I'll bring up water and more painkillers. You need anything else? A phone. I need to contact someone, let them know I'm alive. I hesitated. Whoever he needed to contact was part of whatever world had gotten him shot. Letting him communicate with them meant pulling that world closer to my home. But he was watching me with those intense eyes, and I saw something in them that made me nod. 1 call. 5 minutes. Then you rest. Thank you. The sincerity in his voice was unexpected. I know you don't believe me, but you're saving more than my life tonight. Save the gratitude until you're recovered. I headed for the door. And Nick, don't make me regret this. I won't. You have my word. I left him there, this dangerous stranger in my guest room, and went downstairs to retrieve my phone. My hands shook as I poured myself a glass of water, the adrenaline finally catching up with me. What had I done? I'd brought an armed man who'd been shot into my home. I was harboring someone who was clearly on the run from something or someone dangerous enough to shoot him. I should call the police. Should turn him over to authorities and wash my hands of whatever trouble he'd brought to my doorstep. But when I returned upstairs with my phone and found him struggling to stay conscious, his face pale and drawn with pain, all I could think was that he'd trusted me, a complete stranger, and he'd let me help him, put his life in my hands. I couldn't betray that trust. Here. I handed him the phone. 5 minutes. He dialed with fingers that trembled slightly from blood loss, then spoke in rapid Russian to whoever answered. The conversation was tense, urgent, but too fast for me to follow. When he ended the call, he looked even more exhausted. They'll send someone to extract me tomorrow night. After that, you'll never see me again. He handed back the phone. Thank you for giving me time to arrange it. Extract? You make it sound military. Close enough. He leaned back against the pillows. You should stay away from this room tomorrow. When my people come, it's better if you don't see their faces. Will they hurt me? No, I'll make sure of it. You're under my protection now. His eyes were already closing. Anyone who touches you answers to me. I don't need protection. You do now. The moment you helped me, you became involved. That means I'm responsible for keeping you safe from the consequences. His voice was fading as the painkillers and blood loss pulled him toward sleep. Sorry about that. But you saved my life. Now you're mine to protect. I'm not yours. But he was already unconscious, his breathing evening out into the rhythm of sleep. I checked his pulse one more time, steady enough, then left him there, locking my bedroom door as a precaution and lying awake for hours, wondering what I'd gotten myself into. A wounded stranger in my guest room. Russian contacts coming to extract him. Protection I didn't ask for. My quiet life as an ER nurse had just become immensely complicated, and somehow, I knew that by morning, complicated would be the least of my problems. I woke to the sound of movement upstairs. My eyes flew open, heart racing as I remembered Nikolai, the wounded man in my guest room. Sunlight streamed through my bedroom window. I'd overslept, exhaustion finally catching up with me around 4 a.m. Now it was past 9, and my patient was apparently mobile. I grabbed my robe and hurried upstairs, finding the guest room empty, bed rumpled, and a trail of fresh blood drops leading to the bathroom. The door was ajar, steam escaping, the sound of running water audible. Nick? I called, pushing the door open. He stood at the sink, shirtless, attempting to clean his wound with one hand, while the other gripped the counter for support. His skin was pale, sweat beading on his forehead, but he was conscious and standing, which was something. You should be in bed, I said, moving to his side. Needed to clean up. Didn't want to bleed all over your nice sheets. He swayed slightly, and I steadied him with a hand on his uninjured side. In the light of morning, I could see him properly for the first time. He was even more imposing than I'd realized. Broad shoulders, muscular chest and arms covered in tattoos that definitely weren't random art. Cyrillic script, symbols I didn't recognize but that screamed organized crime. Scars, too, old ones. Evidence of a life lived violently. Let me do that. I took the washcloth from his hand, gently cleaning around the wound. The bandages had held overnight, but he'd definitely been too active. You're going to tear these stitches if you keep moving around. Can't stay in bed all day. My people are coming tonight. I need to be ready to move. You need to be ready not to die. There's a difference. I checked the wound. No signs of infection yet, which was miraculous. Back to bed. Now, bossy. But there was a hint of amusement in his voice. Bet that works well in the ER. It keeps patients alive, which is my only goal here. I helped him back to the guest room, noting how heavily he leaned on me. You lost a lot of blood. Your body needs rest to recover. He eased back onto the bed with a barely suppressed groan. How bad is it, really? You were lucky. The bullet missed everything vital, but you're still recovering from significant trauma and blood loss. Normally, you'd be in a hospital for at least 3 days. I adjusted his pillows. Instead, you're planning to be extracted tonight by armed Russians. Not exactly doctor's orders. Can't be helped. Staying here puts you at risk. The people who shot me, they'll be looking for me, following up to make sure I'm dead. His dark eyes held mine. When they realize I'm not, they'll start searching. I can't let them find you. Who shot you? Better you don't know. You keep saying that. But I'm already involved, remember? You said so yourself last night. I sat on the edge of the bed. I deserve to know what danger I'm in. He was silent for a long moment, clearly weighing what to tell me. Finally, I work for an organization, the Volkov Bratva out of Brooklyn. We handle security, protection, business negotiations. You mean your Russian mob? I prefer private security, but yes, essentially. He didn't look apologetic about it. Someone from a rival organization thought they could take me out, send a message to my boss. They failed, obviously, but now both sides are looking for me, mine to protect. Theirs to finish the job. So I've got the Russian mob and their rivals potentially coming to my house. Great. I stood, pacing. This is insane. I should never have helped you. But you did, and I'm grateful. He caught my hand as I paced past him. Harper, I mean what I said last night. You're under my protection now. My people will make sure no one touches you. Your protection. From your people. I pulled my hand free. Do you hear how crazy that sounds? I hear how it sounds. Doesn't make it less true. He leaned back against the pillows, exhaustion evident despite his attempt to stay alert. When my team extracts me tonight, I'll make sure they post guards. Someone watching your house, your hospital, everywhere you go. You won't even know they're there. I don't want guards watching me, and I don't want you dead because you were kind enough to save a stranger. His voice hardened. This isn't negotiable, Harper. You involved yourself in my world when you brought me into your home. Now I'm doing what's necessary to keep you alive in it. You're being paranoid. No one knows you're here. A crash from downstairs cut off my words. Both of us froze. Nick's hand went immediately to where his gun would be, then he cursed, remembering I'd removed it last night while treating him. Where's my weapon? He whispered. Downstairs. Kitchen counter. I'd unloaded it and put it somewhere I'd remember, never imagining I'd need to return it so soon. More sounds from below. Footsteps. Multiple people. Moving through my house with professional quiet. Nick tried to stand, but I pushed him back down. You can barely walk. You're not facing whoever that is. I moved to the door. Stay here. Let me handle this. Harper, no. But I was already slipping into the hallway, my heart hammering. Voices drifted up the stairs, speaking in Russian. At least 3 men, possibly more. I descended slowly, trying to look calm despite my terror. 3 men stood in my living room, all dressed in dark clothes, all carrying weapons. They turned when I appeared, and the tallest one, scarred face, cold eyes, smiled without warmth. You must be the nurse. His English was accented but clear. The kind woman who found our Nikolai. Who are you? This is breaking and entering. This is retrieving our man. Where is he? Not here. He left hours ago. I kept my voice steady. I treated him and sent him on his way. You're a bad liar. The scarred man moved closer. We tracked his phone to this location, and we know he couldn't have gone far with the injury he sustained. So let's try this again. Where is Nikolai Volkov? Volkov. The same name as the organization he'd mentioned. Not just an employee, then. Someone important. I told you, he's gone. She's lying to protect me. Nick's voice came from the stairs, and I turned to find him leaning heavily on the banister, somehow having managed to get down without making a sound. Stand down, Alexei. She's not part of this. Boss! Alexei's entire demeanor changed, respect replacing threat. We've been looking for you. When you didn't report in, I was shot. Took time to stabilize. Nick descended the last few stairs, each step clearly painful. Harper saved my life. She's under our protection now. Pass the word. The 3 men exchanged glances. Then Alexei nodded. Understood. We'll post guards. No, I interrupted. No guards. I don't want your protection. Just take him and leave me alone. Can't do that. Nick reached the bottom of the stairs, immediately swaying. I moved to support him on instinct, and he leaned against me heavily. You're involved now. That means you're protected, whether you want it or not. This is my house, my life. You can't just... I can, and I am. He looked at Alexei. 2 men on rotation, discreet. She shouldn't even know they're there. Boss, you need medical attention. We should get you back to... I'm getting medical attention. From Harper. Nick's arm around my shoulders tightened slightly. Set up a secure perimeter here. I'm staying until I'm recovered enough to move without risk. I stared at him. You can't stay here. You said you were being extracted tonight. I said my people would come. They're here, and they're staying, with me, to ensure your safety. He met my eyes, and I saw determination beneath the pain. I told you, you're my responsibility now. That means I stay close until the threat is eliminated. What threat? You said your people would protect me. From external threats, yes. But the people who shot me, they're persistent. They'll keep looking, and eventually they might trace me here." His expression was grim. "I stay, my men stay, and we wait until my organization neutralizes the risk. Then, and only then, do we leave." "You're talking about killing people. I'm talking about handling business. How that's handled isn't your concern. It's absolutely my concern if it's happening because of me." I tried to pull away from him, but he held firm, his strength surprising given his injury. "I don't want any part of your war. Too late. You're already part of it." He looked at Alexei. "Set up the perimeter. No one gets within 100 feet of this house without my knowing. And someone get a doctor, a real one, to check my injuries. We have one on call. I'll contact him." Alexei pulled out his phone, already coordinating. The other 2 men moved toward the door, presumably to establish whatever security Nick had ordered. I stood in my living room, supporting a Russian mob boss, apparently a high-ranking one, surrounded by armed men turning my quiet suburban home into some kind of fortress, and I felt my control of the situation slip entirely away. "This is insane," I said quietly. "All of this is insane." "I know." Nick's voice was softer now, sympathetic. "But it's the reality. I'm sorry you got caught up in it, but I won't apologize for keeping you alive. Even if it means taking over my life? Even then." He pulled back to look at me. "Harper, I know you don't understand my world, but in it debts are real. Life debts are sacred. You saved mine. That means I'm bound to protect yours. It's not negotiable, not optional. It's honor. I don't care about your honor code. You should, because it's the only thing standing between you and people who'd hurt you to get to me." His expression was serious, no trace of the pain I knew he must be feeling. "Let me do this. Let me keep you safe. Once the threat is neutralized, I'll disappear. You'll never see me again. Promise." "Yes." But something flickered in his eyes, something that made me think he wasn't entirely certain about that promise. Alexei returned from his call. "Doctor will be here in 20 minutes. And boss, we have a problem. The Kozlov Bratva knows you're alive. They've put out word they're looking for you. Every asset they have is mobilized. How many? At least 20 men. Maybe more." Alexei's expression was grim. "They want you dead, boss. And they're not being subtle about it." "Good. Let them come." Nick's voice turned cold, dangerous. "They'll find I'm harder to kill than they thought. Especially now that I have time to prepare. Boss, you're injured. Maybe we should relocate." "No. Harper's home is defensible, and moving me now risks reopening the wound. We fortify here. We wait them out. We eliminate the threat when they come." He looked at me. "You might want to pack a bag. Stay somewhere else for a few days until this is over." "Pack a bag? This is my house, which is about to become a war zone. I'm trying to keep you out of the crossfire." "By having a war in my house instead of leaving?" I laughed, slightly hysterical. "You're insane." "All of you are insane, probably," Nick agreed. "But we're the insane people keeping you alive. So maybe work with us instead of against us." Before I could respond, my phone rang. The hospital, calling to see if I could cover an emergency shift. I looked at the screen, then at the armed men in my living room, then at the wounded mob boss leaning against my stairs. My quiet, normal life was officially over. I declined the hospital shift. There was no way I could leave with armed Russian mobsters fortifying my house, and spent the next hour watching in stunned silence as Nick's people transformed my suburban home into a tactical stronghold. They installed security cameras, reinforced doors, positioned weapons at strategic points. 2 men took positions outside, barely visible but undoubtedly armed. Alexei coordinated everything with military precision while Nick directed from my couch, looking increasingly pale but refusing to rest. "You're going to pass out," I told him, checking his pulse. Still elevated, and his skin was clammy. "Your body needs rest to heal. I'll rest when my house is secure." He winced as he shifted position. "How long until the doctor arrives?" "Should be here any minute." I adjusted the pillows behind him. "Though I still don't understand why you need another doctor. I've done everything necessary. You have. But I want confirmation that you didn't miss anything, that I'm healing properly." His dark eyes held mine. "I trust your skills, Harper. But I also know you've never treated a gunshot wound outside a hospital before. This is unusual circumstances." That's an understatement. I sat beside him, exhausted despite having done nothing but watch my home be overtaken. "Nick, be honest with me. How dangerous is this, really?" He was quiet for a moment then. The Kozlov Bratva wants me dead because I killed 3 of their men last month. It was business. A territory dispute that got violent. They retaliated by ambushing me. Now it's war. You killed 3 people. I did. No apology, no justification. Just fact. They were threatening our operations, hurting people under our protection. I eliminated the threat. And you don't feel anything about that? About taking lives? I feel what's necessary to do my job. Guilt is a luxury I can't afford. He studied my face. Does that frighten you? Knowing what I am, what I've done, it should have. But looking at him, injured, vulnerable, yet still commanding respect from hardened criminals, I felt something more complicated than fear. It should, I said honestly. But mostly I'm just trying to understand how I went from a normal ER nurse to harboring a mob enforcer in less than 24 hours. Enforcer is generous. I'm the Volkov Bratva's second in command. My uncle runs the organization, but I handle operational matters. His expression was carefully neutral, which is why the Kozlovs want me dead. Take me out, weaken the organization. You're second in command? I stared at him. You're not just some foot soldier. You're someone very important, yes, which is why Alexei and the others are so concerned about protecting me. He reached out, his hand covering mine. And by extension, protecting you. You saved someone high value, Harper. That makes you high value to us. I don't want to be high value to the mob. Too late. His thumb brushed across my knuckles, the gesture almost tender, but I meant what I said. Once this is over, once the Kozlovs are handled, I'll make sure you're compensated for your trouble, and then I'll disappear from your life. Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. Alexei immediately moved to answer it, gun drawn, while 2 other men positioned themselves in the hallway. A tense moment, then Alexei called out in Russian. A man entered, older, distinguished, carrying a medical bag that marked him as the doctor. He spoke to Nick in rapid Russian, clearly assessing his condition, then turned to me. You're the nurse who provided initial treatment? His English was precise, clinical. I'm Dr. Petrov. Tell me exactly what you did. I walked him through my treatment, cleaning the wound, packing it, bandaging, pain management. He listened carefully, occasionally nodding, then examined Nick with professional thoroughness. The nurse did excellent work, he pronounced finally. The wound is clean, no signs of infection, proper treatment protocol. You were very fortunate, Nikolai. I was fortunate she found me. Nick looked at me with something warm in his expression and knew what to do. Dr. Petrov gave Nick antibiotics, stronger pain medication, and strict instructions to rest for at least 48 hours. No strenuous activity, no field work. You push yourself now, you risk serious complications. I'll make sure he follows orders, I said, earning a sharp look from Nick. You'll try, he corrected. But when my people need me, your people can manage without you for 2 days. I crossed my arms. Doctor's orders, which means patient compliance or I'll sedate you myself. Alexei smirked. I like her, boss. She's not afraid of you. Neither are you. But I tolerate your insubordination. Nick's tone was dry but affectionate. Fine, 2 days rest, but only because Harper will make my life miserable if I don't. After Dr. Petrov left, I helped Nick back upstairs to the guest room. He was moving worse than before, the examination having aggravated his injury. I got him settled, gave him the pain medication, and watched as he finally, allowed exhaustion to pull him under. Asleep, he looked less dangerous. The hard lines of his face softened, his breathing evening out, the constant vigilance finally easing. I found myself studying him. The tattoos that marked his allegiance, the scars that told stories of violence, the strong features that would be handsome without the context of what he did for a living. Your trouble, I whispered to his unconscious form. So much trouble. Downstairs, Alexei was coordinating with the exterior guards, speaking in rapid Russian that I couldn't follow. When he saw me, he switched to English. The boss will be all right. Thanks to you. I just did what any nurse would do. No. Most would have called the police. Let him bleed out while waiting for ambulances. You saved him without hesitation. Alexei's expression was respectful. The Volkov Bratva doesn't forget that kind of loyalty. It wasn't loyalty. It was medicine. Same thing to us. He pulled out his phone, showing me an app. This is linked to our security system. You can see all the camera feeds, call for help if you need it. Keep it with you always. I don't need boss's orders. You're under our protection. That means you get the tools to stay safe. He saved his number in my phone. Call me directly if anything feels wrong. Anything. We respond immediately. It was surreal, having a Russian mobster programming his number into my phone like he was a helpful neighbor. But I nodded, accepting the reality I'd stumbled into. The rest of the day passed in strange domesticity. I made food that Alexei and the others ate gratefully, their presence becoming almost normal despite the weapons they carried. I checked on Nick every few hours, monitoring his vitals, changing bandages, making sure infection didn't set in. By evening, I was exhausted, running on adrenaline and coffee. I dozed on the couch, jerking awake every time I heard movement, until finally Alexei appeared. "Go to bed," he said gently. "We've got watch. You need real rest. What if Nick needs something? Then we'll wake you. But he's stable, sleeping well. The medicine is working." He gestured to the stairs. "Go, sleep. We'll keep both of you safe." I wanted to argue, but exhaustion won. I dragged myself to my bedroom, barely managing to change before collapsing into bed. I woke to shouting. My eyes flew open, darkness disorienting me until I remembered where I was. My clock read 3 a.m. The shouting continued, Nick's voice, harsh and panicked, speaking Russian. I ran to the guest room, finding him thrashing in bed, tangled in sheets, clearly caught in a nightmare. His wound had started bleeding again, seeping through the bandages. "Nick!" I grabbed his shoulders, trying to wake him gently. "Nick, it's okay. You're safe. Wake up." His eyes opened, wild and unfocused, and for a moment I saw pure violence in them. Then recognition dawned, and he sagged back against the pillows, breathing hard. "Harper." His voice was rough. "Sorry. Nightmare. You reopened your wound." I was already moving to get supplies, falling into nurse mode. "Stay still while I check it." He let me clean and rebandage the wound, his jaw tight with pain he refused to vocalize. When I finished, he caught my hand. "Stay. Please. Just until I fall asleep again." I should have said no, should have maintained professional distance. But something about the vulnerability in his eyes, the way his hand gripped mine like I was an anchor, made me nod. I sat on the edge of the bed, and he kept hold of my hand, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. "What was the nightmare about?" I asked quietly, the usual. "People I've killed, people who've tried to kill me, the moment the bullet hit." He closed his eyes. "In the dream, I don't make it to your garage. I bleed out in the street, and no one finds me until it's too late. But I did find you. You're alive. Because of you." He opened his eyes, looking at me with intensity that made my breath catch. "You're the only good thing to come out of that night, Harper. The only light in all this darkness. Nick, I know. You don't want to hear it. You want me gone. Want your life back." His hand tightened on mine. "But for just tonight, let me pretend that you're here because you want to be, not because you're too kind to walk away from an injured man." I should have corrected him. Should have said I was only here as his nurse, nothing more. Instead, I shifted to sit beside him, our hands still joined. "Tell me something. About you before all this. Before you were the Volkov Bratva's second-in-command." He was quiet for so long I thought he'd fallen asleep. "Then, I wanted to be a doctor. Studied pre-med for 2 years before my uncle pulled me into the family business. Said my talents were wasted on healing when I was so good at hurting. You wanted to save people. Ironic, isn't it? Now I'm known for ending lives instead." His voice was bitter. "But maybe that's why I understand what you did for me. Why it means so much. You're who I wanted to be before everything changed. It's not too late. You could still... Yes, it is. I've done too much, gone too far. There's no redemption for someone like me." He looked at me. "But maybe I can protect someone who does deserve redemption. Someone good like you. I'm not that good. I'm harboring a criminal in my house. You're helping someone who needed help. That's the definition of good." He pulled my hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to my knuckles that shouldn't have affected me as much as it did. "Thank you, Harper, for everything." I stayed with him until he fell asleep again, his hand still holding mine, and I realized with growing alarm that I was starting to care about this dangerous man. Not just as a patient, as a person, and that was more dangerous than any mob war. 3 days passed in an increasingly domestic bubble that felt surreal. Nick healed faster than I expected, his body apparently used to recovering from trauma. The guards maintained their perimeter, rotating shifts with military precision, and I found myself falling into a routine that involved cooking for Russian mobsters and monitoring a patient who was far too attractive for my peace of mind. "You're staring," Nick said without opening his eyes, a smile playing at his lips. I was changing his bandages, and yes, I'd been staring at his chest, at the tattoos. I told myself, not the defined muscles beneath them. "I'm examining your wound." That's not staring. It's medical observation. Medical observation doesn't usually involve that expression. He opened his eyes, dark and amused. "You're curious about the tattoos. They're extensive. Hard not to notice." I traced the edge of a particularly intricate design near his shoulder. "What do they mean?" "This one marks my rank in the Bratva. This one commemorates my first kill. These are the names of men I've lost. Brothers, not blood, but family nonetheless." His voice was matter-of-fact, explaining violence like someone else might explain family photos. "And this one over my heart is a reminder of what? That everyone I care about dies. Mother, father, brother, all gone before I was 25. His expression was carefully neutral. "It's why I don't get close to people. Why I keep my world separate from anything soft or good. And yet here you are, in my house letting me take care of you. Temporary necessity. Once I'm recovered and the Kozlovs are handled, this ends. We both go back to our separate worlds." But he didn't sound entirely convinced. Before I could respond, Alexei appeared in the doorway. "Boss, we have movement. 3 cars approaching from the east. Could be nothing, could be them." Nick was off the bed instantly, all trace of the patient vanishing as the soldier emerged. Defensive positions. No one fires unless fired upon. I don't want this neighborhood turning into a war zone. "What's happening?" I asked, fear spiking, probably reconnaissance. "They're trying to confirm I'm here." Nick pulled on a shirt despite my protests about his wound. "Hopper, go to your room. Lock the door. Don't come out until I tell you. This is my house, which is about to be tested by people who want me dead." He gripped my shoulders, his intensity focused entirely on me. "Please, for once, don't argue. Just go somewhere safe." The fear in his eyes, fear for me, not himself, made me nod. I went to my bedroom, locked the door, and sat on my bed with my phone clutched in shaking hands. Minutes passed like hours. I heard movement downstairs, voices speaking Russian, the sound of weapons being checked. Then silence, thick and oppressive. My phone buzzed. A text from Alexei. 3 cars stopped 2 blocks away. "Just watching. No approach yet." I texted back. "What does that mean?" "Means they're gathering intelligence. Figuring out our defenses before they attack." "And if they attack?" "We're ready." That should have been reassuring. It wasn't. An hour later, the cars left. I emerged from my room to find Nick and his men in what I was starting to think of as a war council in my living room. "They know you're here," one of the guards was saying. "Question is when they'll move. Not yet. They're being cautious because they don't know our numbers." Nick looked up as I entered. "You okay?" "Fine." Terrified, but fine. I sat beside him on the couch, and he immediately shifted closer, his presence both protective and possessive. "How long can this go on? You can't stay in my house forever fighting a war." "We won't have to. My uncle is mobilizing our full force. By tomorrow, we'll have 50 men surrounding this location. The Kozlovs won't risk a direct assault against those numbers." 50 men? In my suburban neighborhood? I laughed, slightly hysterical. "My neighbors are going to call the police. The HOA will have a field day. Your neighbors will be told we're a private security company doing a training exercise. The HOA will receive a generous donation for their inconvenience." Nick's hand found mine, squeezing gently. "I know this is overwhelming, but it's almost over." "You keep saying that, but what happens after? When the Kozlovs are handled, you disappear, and I'm just supposed to go back to my normal life like none of this happened?" "Yes." But his expression said he wasn't entirely sure that was possible anymore. That night, after everyone had eaten dinner, I'd somehow ended up cooking for a small army. Nick found me on the back porch. I'd needed air, needed a moment away from the testosterone and weapons and constant vigilance. "Thought I'd find you here." He sat beside me, moving more easily now, his wound healing despite his refusal to fully rest. You've been quiet all evening. I've been thinking. About what happens next. About this whole impossible situation. I looked at him. Nick, be honest. Even after the Kozlovs are dealt with, will I ever really be safe? Or will there always be another threat? Another enemy who knows you were here? He was silent for a long moment. I won't lie to you. My world is violent. People who associate with me, who help me, they become targets by proximity. It's why I don't have friends outside the Bratva. Why I don't date. Why I keep everything at arm's length. So the answer is no. I'll never be completely safe again. Not never. Just not immediately. It'll take time for word to spread that you're under protection. That touching you means war with the Volkov Bratva. Once that's established, you'll be safer than you ever were before. Because I'm marked as yours. Because you're marked as under our protection, yes. He turned to face me fully. Harper, I know you didn't ask for any of this. You were just being kind, being a nurse, doing what you thought was right. And it's completely unfair that you're now caught up in mob politics and violence. If I could undo it. If I could go back and bleed out somewhere else. Don't. I surprised myself by reaching for his hand. Don't say that. I'm glad you came to my garage. Glad I could help. Even with all the chaos and danger and Russian mobsters in my living room, I don't regret saving your life. You should. But I don't. I looked down at our joined hands. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe the stress has broken something in my brain. But when I look at you, I don't see a monster. I see someone who is hurt and scared and trusted me to help him. I'm not a good man, Harper. I've done terrible things. I know. You've told me. Multiple times. I met his eyes. But you're also the man who has nightmares about the people you've killed. Who wanted to be a doctor before life pushed you another direction? Who's currently mobilizing an army to protect a nurse he barely knows? I know you better than you think. These past few days, watching you, talking to you. I know you're brilliant at your work, terrible at taking care of yourself, and you have a stubborn streak a mile wide. His thumb traced circles on my palm. I know you make the best coffee I've ever had, that you read romance novels when you think no one's watching, and that you hum when you're concentrating on medical work. You've been stalking me. I've been observing my environment. Can't help what I notice. His expression grew serious. Harper, I need to tell you something, and I need you to really hear it. Okay. When this is over, when you're safe and I can leave without worrying about you, I'm going to do everything in my power to walk away, to let you go back to your normal life. His hand tightened on mine, but there's a part of me, a selfish, terrible part, that doesn't want to. That wants to stay, to keep seeing you, to explore whatever this connection is between us. My heart was racing. Nick, I know it's wrong. I know I'm dangerous for you, that being with me would put you at constant risk, but I can't stop thinking about what it would be like, to come home to you, to have someone waiting who sees past what I do to who I am underneath. That's the pain medication talking. No, it's not. He cupped my face with his free hand, his touch gentle despite the violence those hands were capable of. It's the truth I've been trying to ignore for 3 days. I'm falling for you, Harper, and I don't know what to do about it. I should have pulled away, should have reminded him of all the reasons this was impossible. Instead, I leaned into his touch. I don't know either, but I'm scared, Nick. Scared of what it means to care about someone in your world. Scared of what could happen if I let myself feel something for you. Then maybe we don't think about the future. Maybe we just exist in this moment, in this impossible situation, and see what happens. He leaned closer, his forehead resting against mine. I know it's selfish. I know I should be noble and push you away for your own good, but I'm not that strong. Neither am I whispered. He kissed me then, soft and searching. Nothing like the dangerous criminal he was supposed to be. I kissed him back, my hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer despite every logical reason not to. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, he smiled against my lips. This is a terrible idea, the worst. I kissed him again. But I've apparently developed a thing for terrible ideas. Lucky me. We stayed on that porch, kissing like teenagers, until Alexei's deliberately loud cough announced his presence. Sorry to interrupt. Boss, but your uncle is on the phone. Says it's urgent. Nick sighed, pressing one more kiss to my forehead before pulling away. Duty calls. But Harper, This isn't finished. I know. After he left, I sat alone in the dark, my fingers touching my lips, trying to process what had just happened. I'd kissed a mob enforcer, was developing feelings for someone who killed people for a living, had apparently lost all sense of self-preservation. And the scariest part? I didn't want to stop. The next morning, everything changed. I woke to the sound of cars, lots of them, pulling up outside. I ran to the window to see exactly what Nick had promised. At least 50 men, all dressed in tactical gear, all clearly armed, setting up a perimeter around my house that looked like something out of a military operation. My quiet suburban street had become a fortress. Nick found me staring out the window in shock. My uncle sent reinforcements. The Kozlovs won't attack now. We've made it too costly. My neighbors are going to lose their minds. Your neighbors are being told this is a film shoot. We've already distributed permits and paperwork. He stood behind me, his hands resting on my shoulders. This ends today, Harper, one way or another. What does that mean? It means my uncle has issued an ultimatum to the Kozlov Bratva. Stand down and pay restitution or face full-scale war. They have until sunset to respond. And if they choose war, then we eliminate the threat, permanently. His voice was cold, businesslike. But they won't. The Kozlovs are smart enough to know when they're outmatched. They'll negotiate, pay compensation for attempting to kill me, and will establish new territorial boundaries that prevent future conflicts. You make it sound so simple. It is, in my world. Violence is just another negotiating tactic. They tested our strength, we demonstrated it's greater than theirs, now they'll back down. He turned me to face him. By tonight, this will be over. You'll be safe, and you'll leave. Something flickered in his eyes. Is that what you want? For me to leave? I thought about last night, about his kiss, his confession, the way he looked at me like I was something precious. I thought about the danger, the violence, the impossible nature of anything between us. I don't know, I said honestly. Part of me wants my normal life back, but another part wants to see where this goes, if this connection is real. He pulled me closer, his arms wrapping around me in a hug that felt both protective and desperate. I want that too, more than I should. We stood like that, holding each other in my bedroom while 50 armed mobsters fortified my house, and I realized I'd already made my choice. I was in this. Whatever this was, whatever it became. I was choosing the dangerous, impossible option over the safe, normal one. The Kozlov Bratva responded an hour before sunset. Not with violence, but with a white flag, metaphorically speaking. 2 of their representatives arrived under heavy escort, requesting a sit-down with Nick's uncle to negotiate terms. I watched from my window as the meeting took place in my driveway, of all places. 2 groups of heavily armed men facing each other while their leaders talked in the middle, surrounded by enough firepower to start a small war. It's almost civilized, I murmured to Nick, who stood beside me, his hand resting on my lower back. This is how it works. Violence when necessary, negotiation when possible. He pointed to the older man on his side. That's my uncle Dmitry Volkov. He built our organization from nothing. Respect him, fear him, but never underestimate him. He looks like a businessman. He is. We all are. Violence is just one tool in a very large toolbox. Nick's phone buzzed and he checked it. They're agreeing to terms. It's over. Just like that. Just like that. They'll pay restitution, probably several million, acknowledge our territorial rights, and promise no further retaliation. In exchange, we don't wipe them out completely. He smiled grimly. Everyone saves face, everyone survives. It's the best outcome. I wanted to feel relieved. Instead, I felt oddly hollow. So you're leaving tonight? My uncle expects me back in Brooklyn, yes. Now that the threat is neutralized, there's no reason for me to stay. He turned me to face him. Unless you give me one. I know, it's complicated. I'm dangerous, you're normal, we live in completely different worlds. I've heard all the logical arguments in my own head. His hands cupped my face. But I don't care. These past few days with you have been the most alive I've felt in years. I don't want to walk away from that. What are you saying? I'm saying stay. Not here, in this house that's been turned into a fortress. But in my life, give us a real chance. His dark eyes held mine, intense and vulnerable. I know it's insane. I know I'm asking you to accept things about my life that would horrify most people. But I'm asking anyway. My heart was racing, torn between desire and logic. You kill people for a living. Yes. You're second in command of a criminal organization. Yes. Dating you means accepting violence as part of my reality. Means living with guards and threats and the constant possibility that someone will try to hurt you to hurt me. Yes. He didn't try to sugarcoat it. It means all of that. It also means you'd be protected by the most powerful organization in New York. Means you'd want for nothing materially. Means you'd have me completely for as long as you'll have me. That's not enough. Material things don't matter if I'm constantly terrified. Then I'll make it enough. I'll change, adapt, do whatever it takes to make you feel safe. His thumb brushed across my cheek. Harper, I've never asked anyone for anything like this. Never wanted someone enough to risk them knowing what I really am. But with you, I want to try. Want to see if a man like me can have something good? I should have said no. Should have chosen safety over this dangerous, complicated man. I need time, I said instead. Time to think, to process, to figure out if I can really live with what you are. Disappointment flickered across his face, quickly masked. How much time? I don't know. A week, a month, however long it takes to be sure. I can give you time, but I need something from you first. He leaned closer, his lips almost touching mine. I need to know if this is real. If what I feel when I'm with you is mutual, or if I'm just a patient you were kind to. You know it's more than that. Then show me. Give me something to hold on to while you're thinking. His mouth brushed against mine, soft and questioning. One night. Let me take you to dinner. Treat you the way you deserve. Prove I can be more than just the criminal in your guest room. Dinner? While your men are still fortifying my house? They'll be gone within the hour. The threat is over. No need for the fortress anymore. He smiled. Say yes, Harper. Let me court you properly before you make your decision. I knew I should refuse, should maintain distance while I figured out what I wanted, but looking into his eyes, feeling his hands gentle on my face, I couldn't deny what I felt. One dinner, but I picked the restaurant. Deal. He kissed me properly then, deep and claiming, and I felt any remaining resistance crumble. 2 hours later, the small army had vanished like they'd never been there. My house was mine again, showing no signs of the occupation except some minor furniture rearrangement. Even the security cameras had been removed, leaving only normal suburban quiet. Nick had returned to Brooklyn with his uncle, promising to pick me up at 7 for dinner. I stood in my closet, staring at clothes that seemed inadequate for a date with a mob enforcer, when my phone rang. Emma, my friend from the hospital. Harper, I've been trying to reach you for days. Are you okay? I'm fine. Sorry, I've been dealing with a situation. What kind of situation? You never miss shifts without calling. I couldn't tell her the truth. Couldn't explain that I'd been harboring a wounded mobster who'd somehow convinced me to give him a chance. Family emergency. It's handled now. Well, thank God, we missed you. When are you coming back? Next shift, promise. I pulled out a dress, held it up, put it back. Emma, hypothetical question. If you met someone who was wrong for you in every logical way, but felt right in every emotional way, what would you do? Is this about a guy? Harper Chen, do you have a man you haven't told me about? Hypothetically. Hypothetically, I'd say logic is overrated. The heart wants what it wants, you know? But also define wrong in every logical way. Because if we're talking married or abusive or not married, not abusive, just complicated, very complicated, then I'd say give complicated a chance. You spend your whole life being logical and safe. Maybe it's time to take a risk on something that feels right, even if it doesn't make sense on paper. After we hung up, I held on to those words while I got ready. Taking a risk on something that felt right. Nick arrived at 7 exactly, driving a sleek black car that probably cost more than I made in a year. He looked devastating in a dark suit, his tattoos hidden beneath expensive fabric, looking every inch the legitimate businessman he pretended to be. You're beautiful, he said when I opened the door, his eyes traveling over my simple black dress with appreciation that made me blush. You clean up well yourself. I do own clothes besides tactical gear. He offered his arm. Ready? He took me to a Russian restaurant in Brooklyn, high-end but intimate, where the staff greeted him by name and led us to a private room in the back. I realized this wasn't just dinner. This was him bringing me into his world, showing me where he came from. My uncle owns this place, he explained as we sat, and about 20 others across the city. Legitimate businesses, all properly licensed and taxed. The Bratva isn't just about crime, Harper. We're also about community, about taking care of our people. By running protection rackets and smuggling operations, by providing services the community needs and the government won't supply. Protection from other predators, jobs for people who can't get them elsewhere, justice when the system fails. He poured wine for both of us. I'm not saying we're heroes, but we're not just villains either. The food was incredible. Dishes I'd never tried, flavors that spoke of heritage and tradition. Nick explained each course, told stories about growing up in Brighton Beach, about his uncle raising him after his parents died. He could have sent me to regular school, encouraged a normal life. Instead, he trained me for this, said I had the mind for strategy, the stomach for hard choices. Nick's expression was complicated. I don't know if I'm grateful or resentful. Maybe both. Do you ever think about leaving? Trying something different? Every day, especially now. His eyes held mine across the table. Before you, I accepted this was my life. Made peace with dying young and violent. But now I'm thinking about futures I never considered possible. Like what? Like waking up next to someone I care about, coming home to more than an empty apartment, maybe even having a family someday. If I could figure out how to keep them safe from this world. He reached across the table, taking my hand. With you, I want things I've never wanted before. That terrifies me almost as much as it excites me. You're talking about serious things. We barely know each other, I know, but when you face death, when you come that close to losing everything, it clarifies what matters. His thumb traced circles on my palm. What matters is finding someone who sees you, really sees you, and doesn't run. You've seen what I am, Harper. The violence, the danger, the darkness, and you're still here. Temporarily. For dinner. I haven't decided anything yet. I know. But you're here. That's enough for now. He raised his wine glass. To possibilities. And to the nurse brave enough to save the wrong man. The right man, I corrected, surprising myself. Wrong circumstances, maybe, but the right man. His smile was genuine, warm, transforming his face from dangerous to devastating. I liked the sound of that. After dinner, he drove me home, walking me to my door like a proper gentleman. On my porch, under the light that had witnessed so much chaos in the past week, he pulled me close. Thank you for tonight. For giving me a chance to show you I'm more than just the criminal you found bleeding in your garage. You are more. I see that now. I looked up at him. This dangerous, complicated man who'd somehow become important to me. But I still need time, Nick, to be sure I can handle your world long term. Take all the time you need. I'll wait. He kissed me softly. A promise rather than a demand. But know that I'm not giving up. I'll prove I'm worth the risk, Harper. However long it takes. After he left, I stood in my quiet house, my normal, safe house that had been anything but for the past week, and I realized I'd already made my decision. I was going to say yes. To the danger, to the complications, to this impossible man who'd stumbled into my life and changed everything. I just needed to build up the courage to admit it. 2 weeks passed in a strange limbo. I returned to work at the hospital, falling back into the rhythm of 12-hour shifts and medical emergencies. But everything felt different now, colored by the knowledge of what existed beyond my normal world. Nick respected my request for space, but he made his presence known in subtle ways. Flowers delivered to the hospital with cards that said simply, "Thinking of you." A new security system installed in my house while I was at work, with a note, "For my peace of mind." Coffee waiting on my porch every morning before my early shifts. Always exactly how I liked it. He was courting me in his own way. Showing me he could be patient, could give me the space I needed while still making it clear he wasn't going anywhere. My resolve to stay away was crumbling with each gesture. Emma noticed the flowers during one of my shifts. "Okay, you have to tell me about Mystery Man now. These are gorgeous. They're from someone I'm seeing. Sort of. Maybe. It's complicated. Everything good is complicated." She read the card over my shoulder. "No name. Very mysterious. Very romantic. I approve." "You don't even know him." I know he sends you flowers with sweet messages and makes you smile like that. That's enough for me. She bumped my shoulder. You deserve happiness, Harper. Don't overthink it. But how could I not overthink it? I was considering a relationship with a man who killed people for a living, who operated outside the law, who lived in constant danger, whose world was so foreign to mine that we might as well be from different planets. Yet when my phone buzzed with a text from him, just a simple, "How's your shift going?" I found myself smiling. Exhausting. I texted back. 3 traumas, 2 cardiac arrests. The usual chaos. You're incredible at what you do. Those patients are lucky to have you. How would you know? You've never seen me work. I saw you work on me. Calm under pressure, confident in your decisions, gentle despite the circumstances. That's the kind of nurse who saves lives. I stared at the message, warmth spreading through my chest. He saw me, really saw me, understood what I did and why it mattered. Thank you, I typed. That means more than you know. Have dinner with me tomorrow. Please. I know you need space, but I miss you. I should have said no. Should have maintained the distance I'd requested instead. Okay, but somewhere normal. No private rooms or Russian restaurants, just normal. I can do normal. Pick you up at 6? See you then. Emma caught my expression when I put down my phone. That's the look of a woman who's made a decision. Maybe I have. The next evening, Nick arrived in jeans and a casual shirt, looking more approachable than I'd ever seen him. His tattoos were visible on his forearms, no attempt to hide them, and I appreciated the honesty of that. You wanted normal, he said, gesturing to his outfit. This is as normal as I get. It's perfect. I grabbed my jacket. Where are we going? You'll see. He took me to a small Italian place in Queens, the kind of neighborhood restaurant with checkered tablecloths and Sinatra playing softly in the background. Nothing fancy, nothing that screamed mob money, just good food and comfortable atmosphere. My mother used to bring me here, he said as we sat. Before she died, it was our special place, just the 2 of us. I haven't been back in 15 years. Why now? Because you wanted normal, and this is the most normal memory I have. A little boy eating pasta with his mother, both of them pretending his father's work wasn't dangerous, that their life was just like everyone else's. He looked around the restaurant with something soft in his expression. I wanted to share that with you, the good parts of who I was before everything changed. My heart melted a little. Thank you for bringing me here. Over dinner, he told me stories about his childhood. The good parts, before violence became his normal. His mother's laugh, his father's bad jokes, the summers spent in Brooklyn playing street hockey with kids who didn't know his family name, meant power and fear. I was happy then, he said quietly. Didn't know what I'd become. What I'd have to do? Sometimes I wonder if that little boy would recognize the man I've turned into. I think he would. I think he'd see someone who survived impossible circumstances, who protected people he cares about, who's trying to find his way back to something good. I reached across the table, taking his hand. Nick, you're not just what you've done. You're also what you're trying to become. And what am I trying to become? Someone worthy of the life he wants. Someone who can balance darkness with light. Someone who deserves a second chance. I squeezed his hand. I've been thinking about what you asked. About giving us a real chance. His entire body tensed, hope and fear warring in his expression. And I'm scared. Terrified, actually. Of your world, of the danger of loving someone who might not come home one day. I took a breath. But I'm more scared of walking away and spending the rest of my life wondering what if. So yes, I want to try. Really try. Not just dates and flowers and keeping you at arm's length. Harper, but I need conditions. Rules that keep me sane while I navigate your world. I pulled out my phone, showing him a list I'd been compiling. First, honesty. You don't hide the dangerous parts or sugarcoat what you do. I need to know what I'm accepting. Done. Complete transparency. Second, boundaries. I know I can't ask you to leave the Bratva, but I need parts of my life that stay separate. My work, my friends, my normal world, those are mine. You don't bring your business into my hospital or around my people. Agreed. Your normal life stays normal. I keep my world away from yours as much as possible. Third, safety. I don't want guards following me everywhere, but I need to know you're taking reasonable precautions. that you're not being reckless with your life because you think you're invincible. I promise to be as careful as my work allows, and to always come home to you." His grip on my hand tightened. "Anything else?" "Yes. If this gets too dangerous, if at any point I feel like I can't handle it, you let me walk away. No guilt, no making me feel like I'm abandoning you. Clean break." His expression flickered with pain, but he nodded. "If you need to leave, I won't stop you, even if it kills me to watch you go. Then we have a deal." I smiled nervously. "I'm officially dating a mobster. This is either the best or worst decision of my life. I'll make sure it's the best." He raised my hand to his lips, kissing my knuckles with a tenderness that made my breath catch. "I know I don't deserve you, Harper, but I'll spend every day trying to be worthy of this chance." The next 3 months were a study in contrasts. My days were filled with hospital shifts, saving lives, existing in the bright, sterile world of medicine. My nights were Nick's. Dinners at restaurants ranging from dive bars to 5-star establishments, walks through the city, quiet evenings at his penthouse apartment where he'd cook for me while telling stories about his day that carefully edited out the violence. He kept his promise about transparency, though. When he had to handle business, he told me in vague terms what was happening. A territorial dispute that required negotiation, a protection client who'd been threatened, an operation that would take him out of the city for a few days. I didn't ask for details. Didn't want to know exactly what handling it meant. But I appreciated that he didn't pretend his work was entirely legitimate. I met his uncle Dmitri, who studied me with shrewd eyes before pronouncing me good for Nikolai. I met Alexei and the other men who'd fortified my house, who treated me with respect that bordered on reverence. "You saved the boss's life," Alexei explained. "That makes you family. Anyone who touches you answers to all of us." It was surreal, being protected by the mob, but it was also oddly comforting, knowing that Nick's world had accepted me. Emma eventually met him at a casual dinner I'd arranged. She'd been skeptical until Nick had charmed her with stories about me, about how I'd bossed him around while treating his motorcycle accident, how I'd made him want to be better. "He's good for you," she said later. "Dangerous looking, definitely hiding something, but good for you. You're happier than I've ever seen you." I was. Despite the complications, despite knowing what Nick was, I was genuinely happy, until the night everything changed. I was at his penthouse, cooking dinner while he finished a call, when Alexei burst in without knocking. "Boss, we have a problem. The Kozlovs are breaking the treaty. They just hit one of our operations, killed 3 of our men." Nick's entire demeanor shifted, the man I knew vanishing as the enforcer emerged. "When?" 20 minutes ago. They left a message. Said the restitution was paid under duress. The treaty is void. They're declaring open war. I watched as Nick made calls, mobilized his forces, planned retaliation with cold efficiency. This was the side of him I'd avoided thinking about, the strategist who calculated violence like chess moves. "I need to go," he said, already strapping on weapons. "This is bad, Harper. They're not just breaking the treaty. They're doing it in the most aggressive way possible. It's a direct challenge." "How dangerous?" "Very. This won't be settled with negotiations. They want blood." He pulled me close, his hug fierce and desperate. "I need you to go to your house, pack a bag, and go to the safe house Alexei will take you to. You stay there until this is over. How long?" "Days, maybe weeks. I don't know." He cupped my face, his eyes intense. "Harper, this is what I warned you about. The danger, the violence, the reality of my world. You need to decide if you can handle it. I'm not leaving you. You're not leaving me. You're staying safe while I deal with this." He kissed me hard. "Please, I can't fight them and worry about you. Go to the safe house. Let me protect you," I wanted to argue. Wanted to stay by his side. But I saw the fear in his eyes. Not for himself, but for me. And I nodded. Alexei took me to a safe house in Connecticut, a beautiful property that was clearly built for hiding high-value targets. 2 guards were posted outside, and I was given a phone that could only call Nick or Alexei. For 3 days, I heard nothing. No calls, no texts, no word on what was happening. I watched news reports of violence in Brooklyn. Shootings, explosions, a war playing out in the streets that the media attributed to gang violence without understanding the scope of it. On the 4th day, Alexei came to the safe house, his face grim. The boss is hurt. Not shot, but hurt. He wants to see you. My medical training kicked in immediately. How hurt? What happened? Explosion. He got thrown by the blast. Has some broken ribs and a concussion. Dr. Petrov treated him, but he's asking for you. I was in the car before Alexei finished talking, my heart racing with fear and adrenaline. They took me to a different safe house. This one clearly medical, equipped with hospital beds, monitoring equipment, everything needed to treat serious injuries. Nick lay in one of the beds, his torso wrapped in bandages, his face bruised and swollen, but his eyes lit up when he saw me. You came. Of course I came. I moved to his side, automatically checking his vitals, assessing his injuries with professional detachment that masked my terror. Broken ribs, concussion, second-degree burns on your left arm. Could have been so much worse. It was worse for them. The Kozlov leadership is dead. All of them. The war is over. His voice was rough with pain and exhaustion. We won. At what cost? I gestured to his injuries. You could have died, Nick. But I didn't. Because I had a reason to stay alive. He caught my hand, pulling me to sit beside him. I fought harder than I ever have because I knew you were waiting. Because I wanted to come home to you. Tears burned behind my eyes. This is your world. This violence, this danger. It'll always be like this. Yes, but it'll also be coming home to you afterward. Being held by you when the nightmares come. Having someone who sees past the blood to the man underneath. His grip tightened. Harper, I love you. I know it's too soon. I know it's complicated, but I can't not say it anymore. I love you, and I want to build a life with you if you'll have me. Nick, I know what I'm asking. I know it means accepting this. He gestured to his injuries. Means living with fear and guards and violence always lurking. But it also means being loved completely by someone who'll spend every day trying to be worthy of you. I looked at him, broken, bloodied, but alive. This dangerous, complicated man who'd stumbled into my life and refused to leave. Who saw me, understood me, loved me despite all the logical reasons not to. I love you too, I said, the words feeling both terrifying and inevitable. I love you despite your world, because of who you are within it. And I want to build that life with you, whatever it looks like. His smile was brilliant despite the bruises. Yeah? Yeah, but Nick, if you ever scare me like this again, if you ever make me think you're dead, I'll kill you myself. Fair. He pulled me down for a kiss, careful of his injuries. I promise to always come home to you, Harper, no matter what it takes. 6 months later, I moved into his penthouse. A year later, he proposed with a ring that cost more than my nursing salary for a decade. 2 years later, we married in a small ceremony that mixed my normal world with his dangerous one. Nurses and mobsters toasting to impossible love. It wasn't a normal life. There were still moments of danger, times when Nick came home bruised and I had to treat his injuries. Times when I woke to find him gone, handling business that I chose not to ask about. But there were also mornings waking up beside him, evenings cooking dinner together, nights when he held me and whispered how much he loved me. There was the security of his protection, the warmth of his family accepting me, the knowledge that I'd chosen this life with full awareness of what it meant. I'd found a wounded man in my garage, and he'd told me I was his responsibility. He'd been right in a way. I was his responsibility, to protect, to cherish, to love. But he was also mine, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Emma asked me once if I ever regretted saving him that night, bringing all this chaos into my life. I looked at Nick across our living room, laughing at something Alexei said, his hand automatically reaching for mine when he noticed me watching. Not for a second, I told her. He's the best terrible decision I ever made, and I meant every word.